In Exodus 6, we find God's response to Moses' cry to God from the end of chapter 5, where Moses asks why he's allowed this suffering to come upon the people, why he even sent him, um, going back to the reality that he did not want to lead this people out of Egypt. And he says, uh, accuses God of not even bringing the people out at all. God says to Moses, then the Lord, Jehovah said unto Moses, now shalt thou see what I will do to Pharaoh, for with a strong hand, with a strong hand shall he let them go, and with a strong hand shall he drive them out of his land. Previously, the request was for Pharaoh to allow them to go into the wilderness, 3 days journey, and worship, have a festival and worship God, worship Jehovah. And God told Moses, Pharaoh's not going to let them go, not even by a strong hand or a mighty hand. But here he says, now he's going to, and he's going to drive them out of the land. Now we know, looking ahead, that this is going to take some time, and it's going to take great display on God's part, great power on God's part, as we will see what we call the 10 plagues eventually. But God spake unto Moses and said unto him, I am the Lord. Going back to that name that he had revealed to Moses to tell the people, if they asked, who is it that sent you? He said, tell them, I am that I am. That I am Jehovah Yahweh. In the King James, we have the word Lord, but the letters are all caps, signifying that it is this Hebrew word, Yahweh, in our anglicized version, or Jehovah in a more modern translation. And I appeared unto Abraham and unto Isaac and unto Jacob by the name of God Almighty, in the Hebrew El Shaddai. In fact, you can go back to Genesis chapter 17. If we go over there, in Genesis 17, beginning with verse 1, when Abram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be thou perfect, and I will make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly. And so he revealed himself to Abram as El Shaddai, as God Almighty. He says, but my name Jehovah was I not known to them. Commentators have noted that this does not mean that they did not know the word Jehovah at all, that they did not know, or that they were entirely ignorant of that denotation of God, or that name of God. However, this is the name that Israel is going to know me by. The children of Israel are going to know me by, and signifying this redemption that he is bringing to them, this covenant that he is making with them, and the fact that he is delivering them, certainly does not remiss in any way his might and his complete might, that he is God Almighty, but it is included in that with this special name, Jehovah or Yahweh. He says, and I have also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land of their pilgrimage, wherein they were strangers, referring back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And I have also heard the groaning of the children of Israel, whom the Egyptians keep in bondage, and I have remembered my covenant. Wherefore say unto the children of Israel, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians, and I will rid you out of their bondage, and I will redeem you with a stretched out arm and with great judgments. And I will take you to me for a people, and I will be to you a God. And ye shall know that I am the Lord your God, which bringeth you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. And I will bring you in unto the land concerning the which I did swear to give it to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, and I will give it you for an heritage. I am the Lord. Verses 2 through 8 actually form a literary concept that's sometimes used, especially in poetry. You especially see it in Hebrew writings and Hebrew poetry, like the Psalms, and it's called a chiasm, sometimes a chiastic structure. Um, Now, you could probably read through this and glean some lessons from this chapter without ever having to know what that is called. However, it is interesting when you pair up the chiasm is a structure that's sort of like a parallel structure, where on one side you are either you're comparing or you're contrasting, and sometimes we use this form of terminology in just a sentence sometimes, without even realizing exactly that that's what it's called. For example, um, ask not what you shall do for your country, but or what your country shall do for you, but what you can do for your country. And so there is the parallel aspect of that, but yet it is contrasting there. Here we have God beginning in verse 2, speaking to Moses, saying, I am the Lord. And at the end of verse 8, he ends it with, I am the Lord. And so he begins and ends with this emphatic reminder of who he is, that he is Yahweh. In verse 3, he makes mention that he has appeared unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob. And, and he says that he has established a covenant with them and to give the land of Canaan, the land of their pilgrimage, wherein they were strangers, verse 4. Well, then you come down to verse 8, and I will bring you into the land, that is the people, the children of Israel. Now, concerning which I did swear to give to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, and I will give it you for an heritage. And so you see the parallel or the flip side, the comparison, as he's showing, I've made this covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now I'm going to fulfill this covenant through the children of Israel. He says that I have also, and so the middle section of that would be verses 5 and 6. But he makes these promises. In verse 6 in particular, in beginning, he reminds them again, right there in the middle of all of this, of who he is. I am the Lord. He says, I will bring you out from the burdens of the Egyptians. I will rid you of their bondage. I will redeem you with a stretched out arm and with great judgments. And we know that he's going to uh, display his tremendous power over Egypt, over the Egyptians, and over their gods, even as we'll look into in the future. When he brings them out, there is the idea of a stretched out arm with great power and with great judgments. That is, bringing judgment and condemnation to the Egyptians who refused to let them go. And then he says, I will take you to me for a people, and I will be to you a God. Does that terminology ring a bell to you at all in passages that you've considered before? Can't help but think about Revelation chapter 21, when John sees the new heaven and new earth. The first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. Revelation 21, now in verse 2, I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people. And God himself shall be with them and be their God. So going all the way back to this promise of God promising the children of Israel that he's going to bring them out of Egyptian bondage and that they will be his people and he will be their God. And another portion of what we saw there in Revelation 21 is eventually he will give them a tabernacle, um, instruct them how to build that place of worship. And I will take you to me for a people, and I will be to you a God, and ye shall know that I am the Lord your God, which bringeth you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. And so then he promises to bring them into that land, which he had promised, that land of covenant, that promised land, which he had promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I will give it to you as an inheritance. What questions or comments to this point? So Moses then would speak unto the children of Israel, but they did not listen. They hearkened not unto Moses for anguish of spirit and for cruel bondage. So they're in the middle of this. We noted last week, sometimes when we are in the midst of some kind of suffering, grief, difficulty, sometimes it's difficult to see clearly, to hear clearly, to reason clearly. They're not listening to Moses at this point in time, because of what they are undergoing, because of their anguish of spirit and the cruel bondage. And so the Lord speaks to Moses again. Jehovah speaks to Moses, saying, "Go in, speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and that he let the children of Israel go out of his land." And Moses spake before the Lord, saying, "Behold, the children of Israel have not listened to me. They've not hearkened unto me. How then shall Pharaoh hear me, who am of uncircumcised lips?" This is a phrase that you see here in verse 12. And then again in verse 30, Moses will ask it again. God's going to say to him in verse 30, or verse 13 rather, the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, and gave them a charge unto the children of Israel and unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. So verse 13 is just kind of a brief synopsis once again of what God has said before he's going to go in what we will read in verses 14 through verse 25 or 26 here in just a moment. But first, Moses says, wait a minute. The people are not listening to me. You expect Pharaoh to listen to me? And he says, I am of uncircumcised lips. Going back to what he said about himself before, that I am of a slow or heavy tongue. Moses is indicating that he is not prepared. He does not feel that he is prepared for this occasion, because what he is referencing would be the idea of something that is prepared for the holy service of God, and doing what God would have them to do. Moses says he's trying to get out of it again, which goes back to the reality that sometimes, we say, okay, we make a commitment, and then difficulty comes and we might backtrack a little bit. Now, hopefully we don't leave off that commitment ultimately, but Moses is trying. We see the real man that Moses is. Sometimes we place Moses on this heroic pedestal of a servant that we cannot reach his level. We cannot do the things that he would do, but yet if we would read what he said about himself and what he did, then we very well could relate to the humanity of the man Moses, because he's trying to say again, I can't do this. Send someone else, essentially, is what he would want. So we're reminded that God had informed them to go and unto Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, to bring the children of Israel out of the land. Then he's going to kind of go aside here. It's not really an aside, because if you think about Moses writing this at a later date to inform the children of Israel at the time of his writing of the things that have happened in prior years, and he would then inform them of the family tree, if you will, the lineage, the genealogy of who Moses and Aaron are, so that they could refer back to this. Genealogies were very important to the Hebrews, especially, and family history is important to every people, some more than others, but especially to these. And it would be recorded for them so that they could go back and see who Moses and Aaron are. Interestingly, he doesn't just come right out and say, Moses and Aaron are descendants of Levi. He begins with Jacob's firstborn son, Reuben, and then his second-born son, Simeon, and then he comes to Levi, and then he disperses from there as far as the family tree of Levi, but he doesn't go any further with any others of Jacob's sons at this time in his writing, because the purpose of this is to show where Moses and Aaron come from and who they belong to and their connection to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And I suppose sometimes we might talk in this way ourselves. If someone is asking about a child or a grandchild, we might begin with our firstborn and then tell them, and then the second, and go on down in that way. And so that's what is done here. These be the heads of their fathers' houses, verse 14. The sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, Hanok and Palu and Hezron and Carmi. These be the families of Reuben. And the sons of Simeon, Jemuel and Jamin and Ohad and Jachin and Zohar and Shaul, the son of a Canaanitish woman. These are the families of Simeon. And these are the names of the sons of Levi. And so here you have where the focus begins. According to their generations, you have Gershon and Kohath and Merari. And the years of the life of Levi were 137 years. Now, what is significant about the descendants of Levi? Not just that Moses and Aaron came from his, or that they descended from him, but what is significant among the children of Israel? That's right. That's the priesthood came from the tribe of Levi. And so they were a tribe that were designated for that service. And even more specific, you have later on in the writing of Moses, you will have designations depending upon whether you're a descendant of Gershon, a descendant of Kohath, or a descendant of Merari. There will be certain responsibilities that these groups will have related to the tabernacle, the transportation of it, the setting it up, and so on and so forth. And so we get Levi has these three sons, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. The sons of Gershon, Libni and Shimei, according to their families. And the sons of Kohath, Amram and Izhar and Hebron and Uzziel. And the years of the life of Kohath were 133 years. Who was Moses' father? And Aaron's father? Amram. So they would have descended from the Kohathites, from Kohath. Verse 19, the sons of Merari, Mahali and Mushai. These are the families of Levi according to their generations. And Amram took him Jochebed, his father's sister, to wife, and she bare him Aaron and Moses. And the years of the life of Amram were 137 years. Now, at this point in time, the familial nearness was not against the law of God, but eventually it will be under the law of Moses, that they cannot marry their near of kin that's too close near of kin. But we see this time and again in the patriarchs before we get to the time period of the law of Moses. So Amram and Jochebed will have Aaron and Moses. It says in the years of the life of Amram were 137 years. The sons of Izhar are Korah and Nepheg and Zikri. Now, who is Izhar? Back up. The sons of Kohath are Amram and Izhar and Hebron and Uzziel. So Izhar is brother to Moses' father. So Moses' uncle. And Izhar has a son named Korah. Now, we had a sermon recently that reminded us of an occasion surrounding Korah. And what was significant about Korah? He rebelled. He was an Ole Miss fan. No. No. He rebelled, and this is Moses' cousin, as you see, in near of kin, that he would bring about a rebellion. And he gathers a company of people to himself who are in there trying to essentially overthrow Moses and Aaron. And because of that rebellion, Korah and those, his family and those around him, they would be swallowed up by the earth. And then there would be thousands also on that occasion, which would die by plague because of their disobedience. So the sons of Korah is mentioned here. This is obviously many years before that rebellion takes place. Korah, Nepheg, and Zikri. Verse 22, the sons of Uzziel, Mishael, Elzaphan, and Zithri. And Aaron took him Elisheba, daughter of Aminadab, sister of Naashon, to wife, and she bare him Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. Now, do any of those names sound familiar? Nadab and Abihu, what happened to them? That's right, they're going to bring strange fire and be killed by fire from the Lord. They're going to be killed by God because of their disobedience. Then we have the sons of Korah, Asher and Elkanah and Abiasaph. These are the families of the Korahites. And Eleazar, Aaron's son, took him one of the daughters of Putiel to wife. She bare him Phinehas. These are the heads of the fathers of the Levites according to their families. And verse 26, the whole point of what he's getting to here is these are that Aaron and Moses, to whom the Lord said, bring out the children of Israel from the land of Egypt according to their armies. And so he says, perhaps there may have been some, certainly Aaron may have been a name that might have been coming. I don't know about Moses, but it is important to show the significance in their connection to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and then also in the Levitical lineage there under the sons of Levi. What questions or comments? So these are that Aaron and Moses, he would say, to whom Jehovah said, bring out the children of Israel from the land of Egypt according to their armies. These are they which spake to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to bring out the children of Israel from Egypt. These are that Moses and Aaron. Guess what verses 26 and 27 are? They're another chiasm, like what we talked about in verses 2 through 8. So you could look at those, how there's a parallel between the first part and the latter part, and an ascending, I suppose, triangle between the two. It came to pass on the day when the Lord spake unto Moses in the land of Egypt, that the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, I am the Lord. Speak thou unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, all that I say unto thee. And Moses said before the Lord, behold, I am of uncircumcised lips, and how shall Pharaoh hearken unto me? And so there again you have the reminder of what God has of what God has said to Moses and what Moses has replied to God. Was Moses saying this again a second time? It may or may not be the case, but now we're going to see God's response to that as you venture on into chapter 7. Are there any other questions or comments before we move into chapter 7? So the Lord said unto Moses, see, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh. Now Pharaoh, the Egyptians were um, a people of numerous gods. They were very polytheistic. They had a god for many things, and that they obviously did not believe in the one true God. And so God is saying to Moses, essentially, I'm making you like a god in the eyes of Pharaoh, but also more importantly, he's saying that I'm going to give you the words that you're going to say, and Aaron's going to be the prophet. He's going to be the mouth. He's going to deliver those words to Pharaoh. See, I've made thee a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet. Thou shalt speak all that I command thee, and Aaron thy brother shall speak unto Pharaoh, that he send the children of Israel out of his land. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. But Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that I may lay my hand upon Egypt, and bring forth mine armies and my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great judgments. Something interesting that I heard in my study for this is that you can find 10 times where God says, I will harden Pharaoh's heart. You can also find 10 times where it says that Pharaoh hardened his heart. And then you have 10 plagues and 10 commandments. But I don't know that that's significant because it's 12 tribes of Israel. But it's interesting to just to note those things. But Pharaoh will not listen to you, he says, that I may lay my hand upon Egypt and bring forth mine armies and my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great judgments, and the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord. So up to this point, he's emphasizing that that Moses and Aaron and the Israelites need to know I am the Lord, but he also continues to emphasize that the Egyptians are going to know who I am as well. The Egyptians are going to know that I am Jehovah, that I am the eternal God, essentially that he is over anything that they are trying to follow in their religion. When I stretch forth mine hand upon Egypt and bring out the children of Israel from among them, and Moses and Aaron did as the Lord commanded them, so did they. And Moses was 80 old, and Aaron 83 old, when they spake unto Pharaoh. So they're about to go in and speak to Pharaoh, just as God has told them to do. You're going to have the occasion of showing the rod turn into a serpent, but you're also going to have Pharaoh's own magicians seemingly doing something similar. But then God's serpent, or Moses' rod that is turned to a serpent, is going to consume their serpents. And then he's going to go into that first plague of water turned into blood. We're going to save those events for next time, beginning around verse 8 of chapter 7. What questions do you have about anything we've discussed and read in chapter 6 through chapter 7 and verse 7? So in chapter 6, we have a God reminding Moses and the children of Israel of who he is, of his nature, and trying to get them to focus on him and his nature and not on what they think or their inabilities or their fears or their bondage and the difficulties they're experiencing. And he gives them many promises, promises that we can now look back and see that these things have come to pass. God's promises always come true. Sometimes someone may accuse God of not keeping his promises. That's because oftentimes they've made up promises that God never made. They have an idea of promises that God never made. But if he has made a promise, he will keep it, because God cannot lie. And truly, he is all powerful. Any other questions or comments? All right, we'll end off there and pick up next week, Lord willing.